So we're going to start off with fairness via equity. DEI frameworks strive to adjust support and resources so everyone, including historically marginalized groups, has an equal opportunity to succeed. This means acknowledging unique backgrounds and adapting treatment accordingly to achieve real equality. So let's break this down to everyone so everyone knows what this looks like. Be real, can you think of one area where everyone does not have an equal opportunity to succeed? And what does that do to the marginalized groups?
One of the areas I was looking up a few things the other day. CEOs um, in America for Fortune 500 companies, approximately 1% is headed by people of color. Okay, so 99%, like almost like 400 and I don't know, 80 of out of 500 are headed, I believe, by, and I didn't look to see if it was specifically uh, white men, but it's people who are not of color. Let's put it that way. So that is one area where it's prevalent, where people who don't look like the status quo or don't look like the culture or what they're trying to fit as part of their culture, oftentimes are excluded. And what would be a fair representation, if we're talking about fairness here, because that was one of the words that we just used, would
Mm-hmm.
be somewhere between 10 to 15%. So you'd now be looking at somewhere between 50 to 100. Okay. And what I hear oftentimes, Vanessa, is this discussion on merit, where everything is going to be merit based now.
Mm-hmm.
If that is the case, uh, what's to stop me if I want to exclude certain groups? Okay, what's to stop me from not hiring people outside of my group? Okay, if everything is based on merit, because I can justify why I'm hiring somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Based on experience, based on age, based on whether I think they fit into the culture or what have you. So without DEI and some of those policies, it's going to be difficult for you to have diversity within an organization.
Another area DEI focuses on is innovation and creativity. Diverse teams bring varied perspectives, which fuels innovation and creative problem solving. Numerous studies from Harvard Business Review to CMOE show that diverse organizations enjoy significantly higher innovation revenue and market expansion. Be real, how can we as business owners support this effort?
I think by looking at people based on their ability and based on their talent, education, experience, obviously that has to be included. But we also have to be welcoming of other groups as well, and promote that and see the value in diversity, because most companies that have diversity within their organization tend to be more successful, tends to be a work environment that I think more people, have become comfortable with and they're able
Mm,
to work with people from different backgrounds. And I don't think that having an all black or all white or all Asian or whatever the case might be organization is necessarily in that organization's best interest if you're only going to hire based on who looks like you and who fits into your culture. Because now it's no longer merit based. Okay. And we're doing the exact opposite of what we say we want to do. Okay. So you're not basing it on merit anymore. You're basing it strictly on race, gender, or whatever factor you're taking in consideration.
Another thing that stops innovation and creativity, it's not only like race or color, it can be the same people, just not hiring new people to kind of refreshen that with a new perspective.
Hmm.
I've always said it, I've worked in banking for over 32 years and only two companies, right? So I was there in both those companies, there for a long period of time. And when you're working with the same people day in and day out, the group can become stale.
Hmm.
Sometimes it takes just a new person with a new perspective coming in and saying, yeah, that doesn't look right. Let's try it
Hmm.
this way. you know. So constantly, and I think that's that begins with our human resources, making sure that the talent is fresh, constantly turned over, and not constantly turned over, but, turned over at a healthy rate, and the diversity's there.
Yeah, you don't want to keep the same stale, group of people. I hate to use the word stale, but after a while, when it gets to the point where, you keep just churning out, or you keep making it so that you're hiring people who've been with the company for 20 years, or you keep promoting people. Let's say, I'm sorry, for people who have been with the company for a while, rather than looking at a new infusion of talent and taking into consideration, other ideas that you can use to improve the business. And I'm just a strong believer in trying to find the best person for the job. Okay.
Mhm.
And I find it hard to believe that only one group, okay, is qualified
Right.
uh, to fill that void, or to, fill that position. If we're going to look at it um, from a perspective of, okay, we want to do the best we can in terms of trying to promote the company, in terms of trying to build the company. Obviously, you're going to have to take a look outside of a group that you don't belong to. That's just my opinion.
Or continual training. If you're not hiring new people to come in,
Hmm.
um, you want to make sure your group is continually trained, and they're keeping up on the trends and what's going on, and they're able to flex and move with whatever's going on, as it relates to your business.
I know what I think would be interesting. If you hired people, think about this for a minute, based on just their qualifications. You didn't know what their age was. You know what you may know what their experience is, but you don't know their age, don't know their race, don't know their gender. Okay, don't know whether they have a handicap or whatever the case might be. Leave all that information off. Okay, and let's just take it and put it into a computer or put it into AI and see who's the most qualified.
Hmm.
Okay? And that's the other thing too. Since we have AI, let AI determine who's the best qualified.
Hmm.
Okay,
It's almost like that show they have now, Blind Date,
I
where
never
they're
seen it.
getting to
Huh?
know. Have you ever seen that?
No, no, I haven't seen it.
They're actually dating without seeing each other.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I did see that. I did see that. Yep, yep,
Yep. So it
yeah,
puts it all out there raw,
yeah,
right? It's like you
yeah.
have nothing else to talk about
Right.
or to do but to get to know each other. There's no distractions,
And
You can't.
and and I, and I guess you're not able to see what that other person looks like.
Mm-mm.
Okay,
Nope.
let's see. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's blind date this thing and get to
Right.
the
Blind hiring
yeah,
from here on
exactly.
out.
Exactly. They'll be surprised at who shows up to the doorstep.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're really going to do it based on merit, cut all that out.
Hmm.
And let's just do it based on the qualifications and based on the education and the experience, and whatever other intangibles you're looking for in the hiring process.
Yeah, but how would that relate when you promote? Now you've seen them.
Oh, no, 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 because it's the
Got
same
to
thing.
promote on merit now.
No, we're gonna do the same thing. We're not even gonna have a name anymore. We're just gonna have simply all the data based on what their accomplishments have been, what they've done, what the experience is, what their education level is.
Oh,
You
so
know,
you're saying we wouldn't even know the applicant coming
don't
in.
even know the name.
The name, it would go right
Don't
to
even know the
the
name. Because if my name is Shaniqua Robinson, okay, unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot of Shaniqua Robinsons that don't look like us.
right.
So if we're taking that into consideration, even what her name is, and we're not just doing it strictly on merit, okay? Give you an example. Uh, Brown Jackson, okay? I don't want to mispronounce her first name, okay? You know
Mm-hmm.
that, right? Supreme
Mm-hmm.
Court Justice.
Yep.
Okay. If you put her information in just based on who she is, what she's accomplished, her experience, her background, who she did her had her education with, who she did the what do you call it when you do the clerk?
Mm-hmm.
Have to clerk for a judge and all that. Who put all that into play, okay? And she would be at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I believe she's a Harvard grad. You know what I mean? I think she's Harvard Law. I'm not, don't quote me on it. Okay. So she's got everything that you need. Impeccable record as a judge, but yet they're questioning whether she's qualified or not. So if you take away her name, you take away how she looks, and you just based it on merit, like what we're talking about here,
Mm-hmm.
she'll come out on top. And
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
just another person, I'll tell you right now, is Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
If you just take Kamala Harris's accomplishments and what she's been able to do over a 60-year period, okay, she was qualified to be president of the United States based just on her experience.
Right.
When we're talking about personality and all that other stuff that comes into play, okay, that may be different, because let's be honest, becoming president of the United States is almost like becoming president of your high school. It's a popularity contest.
Mm-hmm. And on the opposite side, and I've heard this before, especially when I was in childbearing years, picking out names for your children. And somebody told me, don't name your child, like you said, Shaniqua, because you'll stop them from getting a job. And that was a bold statement. Like when you think about that, it's like, wow, I got to think that far ahead.
Yeah,
I could mess up my child's life by just giving them the wrong name.
yeah.
And it's pretty sad. It's a sad situation that we're in.
Well, here's the thing that we don't really take into consideration. We think if we just go get the education, go have the experience, and we do a great job, that suddenly we're qualified. But there's this culture piece that comes into play as well, that you have to fit the culture. So a person whose name is April Jones, you know what I mean, as opposed to Shaniqua Robinson, okay, in some cultures, okay, if we're basing it just not on merit, but we're taking into, whether it's going to be a cultural fit,
Hmm.
people may be disqualified just not having a name. And she might be the greatest thing this company has ever
Right.
seen. Okay. But it doesn't matter because the name doesn't match with what the culture that we have here at this organization.
That's right. DEI also fosters better decision making. Inclusive, diverse teams in which all voices are heard consistently make smarter, more effective decisions. Research shows inclusive teams perform up to 80% better in delivering more robust results. So here's some food for thought before we go on our break. Um, if research shows businesses perform better when teams are inclusive, inclusiveness fosters innovation and creative problem solving, then why are we still embracing racism, inequality, and exclusion? Stay tuned in, viewers, as we pause for our break. Dreaming of a new beginning? Finding the perfect place or getting your home sold at the right price can feel overwhelming. Call Vanessa Kay, your local real estate expert. Understanding that buying or selling a home is a big decision, she'll guide you through every step, from finding the home suited for you or advising on how to price your home to negotiating the best deal. And it all starts with a free consultation. Why not schedule yours today? Welcome back, everyone. So, DEI initiatives assisted in attracting and retaining broader talent pools. Modern employees, especially the younger generation, seeks inclusive workspaces. DEI commitments help organizations attract broader talent pools and cultivate long-term loyalty, saving on turnover cost. It's encouraging to know our younger generations are moving away from the old ways of doing things. They have a keen understanding on the importance of diversity, equality, and inclusion. Lack of these three elements limits innovation and creativity to only what we know. Be real, what's your thoughts on this?
Obviously, I think it's something that we need to move towards this whole, separatism, keep each other separate, nonsense that is just based on fear. A lot of it is the fear of the unknown. I think it's a great thing that a lot of the young people feel comfortable working with one another, dating one another, hanging out with one another, adopting each other's cultures. As we know, hip hop is American culture. and a lot of other groups have taken upon themselves to include hip hop as part of their lifestyle, their personality, their employment choices, you know. Um, just there's so many different ways that we can come together as human beings and as people. You know, you and I grew up uh, in a place where there's a lot of diversity. We went to a school at Nathan Bishop and John Holland and so forth, where we had all different backgrounds. And I know you feel the way I did, that we benefited from it because we've talked
Right.
about this in the past.
Right.
You know, we benefited from diversity. And it also made it easier with the transition down south. Okay. And you talked about this, I think, either last week or the week before, where just the transition down south was a lot more seamless simply because you already had that relationship with people that didn't look like you. You
Right.
know, yeah, I find that a lot of people who live in the South, especially people of color, tend to want to stick with their own,
Right.
you know. And my thing is like, I don't really care what color you are. I judge you based on your character, on
Right.
who you are as a person. And it's good to see that young people right now, do the same thing, and even when they partner up and do business, or if they're looking to hire, you see a lot of younger people right now probably hire people that don't look that like them, not just race, but gender. And, they're really accepting. And that's one of the things I do give a lot of credit to, even though I'm, constantly saying I wish there were some things that the youth would focus on in terms of work ethic and that type of thing. But in terms of acceptance of other cultures, I got to give the youth their
Oh
props on
yeah,
that.
hats off. They are accepting. You know, when I was in Rhode Island, I'm part Native American. And so we had our tribe, and we ran it like a business. We actually registered and recognized by the state of Rhode Island. But there was a lot of old heads on that committee. And they were getting to the point where, it's time for us to retire. And they're recruiting us younger people to come in. And I tell you, after that, and I'm making light of it because it was kind of funny, but it's what happens. We get to that first meeting, and the young people come out with all the ideas, and it's a constant no, 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 that's not going to work. That's not going to. So they want us to take over, but they weren't giving up the reins, right?
Mm.
And it just made it, and it just went around in a circle until the young people just got discouraged and walked away. And again, never met the goal. We became stale, didn't move forward. So that's what that looks like when
Well,
you don't let new and innovative, creativity enter into what you're doing.
and you bring up an interesting point because up until now, we've been talking mainly about gender and race and not really considering age.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring that up. Yeah, I mean, you have to be inclusive when it comes, to young people as well and be able to let them, have some input in decision making. As a coach, somebody who just coached a basketball team to the chip, or
Mm.
AKA championship. No, I'm just joking. No, what my point is this, right? I was making a joke, but my point is this. Um, I give my kids an opportunity, not during timeouts, but before the game, after the game, when we have a break and maybe they're warming up or what have you at halftime, I give them an opportunity to assess where we are, what we've been doing, what they think about the game, where they think they can improve, where they can think they can add value, And I know they appreciated that because it wasn't just a one-way thing where I told them what to do. This is what you're going to do. No, I want the input from you, and as the leader of the team, I'll use that to make a decision as to what I think is going to be best for all of us. Okay, because they're coming to me saying what's going to be best for them as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're not necessarily looking at it from the perspective of what's going to be best for the team.
Yep.
So sometimes what may have happened with some of the young folks, if they may have come in with something that they thought would benefit them, their group, and their audience, but the older people might have said, you know what? No, that's not going to work for us old folks.
Right.
You know what I mean? All
Right.
that technology and AI and all this new stuff. Older people, let's say over the age of 50, 60 years old, they're not trying to hear all this new innovative stuff. So a lot of times that can be it can be it can be a hindrance. It can be something that can keep you from being able to move forward with the company or the
Yeah.
organization, you know.
And we have to keep that age in mind because we do have three generations on this earth all hitting this technology. I'm going off a little bit, but all hitting this technology era. You know, you have the ones that are knowing, born right into it. Those are the younger ones, right?
Mhm.
Then the ones that have to know, like our age. You know, we
Mhm.
have to know what we know to get by, to do our jobs, and but we're really not plunging into technology. I mean, most of us aren't, right? And
Yep.
embracing it like a young person is.
Yep.
And then we still have our parents and those who just don't know. And it's like a foreign language to them, gives them
Mm.
anxiety and everything. So, but you did touch on what I was getting ready to say. It promotes employee engagement and belonging, right?
Mhm.
When individuals feel valued and included, they are significantly more engaged. They're motivated and they become loyal. Inclusive cultures boost job satisfaction, reduce burnout, and ultimately improve the overall organizational performance. I remember when I worked at Fleet, um, there was two girls. They got pregnant at the same time. They were both having children. They were both full-time workers and they were very good workers. And but they wanted to work part-time now. Now they're starting a family, they have children at home. And Fleet, the bank, actually took the initiative and said, Listen, you guys want to work part-time? We'll take both of you and make two part-time positions. So we'll split your position in half. So both of them got the benefit of working 20 hours apiece, you know, being at home with their families, and Fleet got the benefit of having that employee. I mean, it worked out for everybody. It was a win-win. And as a result of that, though, those girls on the 20 hour schedule pushed out more work than we did in 40 hours because they felt that they were taken care of, you know, their voice was heard and that loyalty came back and they worked, you know, they worked for that company.
You know, and here is yet another good example that you brought up about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Hmm.
Because now you're finding two women,
Hmm.
okay, who are pregnant,
Hmm.
okay, and that is, for lack of a better word, I guess, a form of diversity because
Hmm.
that's a different segment, that's a
Yep.
different subgroup, you know, that we have to accommodate simply because you have to expect, especially if you have young women in the workforce, you know, you've got to build it into your your workflow or your organization where people are going to leave.
Hmm.
They're going to be on paternity leave, you know, or where, like you said, it's best that you create this part-time position, even if for two people, even if it's just for a short period of time.
Right.
Okay. And it shows, for lack of a better word, that you have empathy, you know, and that you're taking into consideration what someone else is going through. And that's another thing that reflects positively on a company. You know, obviously you want to improve your bottom line, you want to, you know, protect your brand and all that stuff, but you also have to take care of the people that work for you as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if they would have hired, if they could have easily said, well, sorry, you know, it doesn't fit into our model. You're going to have to, we need full-time employees, right?
Mhm.
They could have hired somebody brand new off the street.
Mhm.
Both these girls had been there ten years apiece
Mhm.
each,
Mhm.
you know, so they would have been losing all that experience. That's why those girls were able to do a 40-hour job in 20 hours and do it effectively because they had the talent. They were designed for that job, you know, but in
Think,
today's world, it probably wouldn't have went that way.
think about the acquisition cost
Hmm.
involved in bringing somebody on and getting them up to speed. If they're really sharp, maybe they can get up to speed in 6 months, right? But the average person takes about a year,
Exactly.
okay, just to get to where they were 9 years ago. And
Hmm.
they thought about it and said, look, it makes more sense for us to, I don't care what our policy is, it makes more sense for us to combine both of these jobs, even if if it's for a short period of time, you know, and then when they come back, you know, bring them back on board full time. And I'm assuming that's what they did, right?
Oh, no, they stayed part time. I
Oh,
mean,
they stayed
it worked.
part-time.
Yep, it worked.
You know
They
what?
had more and more kids, the family grew and they just stayed on that job
You,
share.
you touched on it. They're
Hmm.
getting the same amount of production for half the pay.
Yep.
So right there, it showed them like, oh shoot,
Hmm.
you mean we can get two people for 80 grand or whatever the case might be? And now you're talking about, maybe some benefits that didn't have to be paid,
Yep.
as a result of it, because they may not have qualified. They may have had just used their husband's benefits. You see what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
not only a good move for those people, but also sounds like it was a good move for the company as
For the
well.
company as well. That's right. It's just thinking a little bit outside the box and nobody heard of that type of position. It was called a job share position.
Mm.
And nobody, it wasn't a part-time, it was a job share. But yeah.
That's a smart way of doing things, and you and I have talked about that too. Is when hiring, looking for people who can kind of share, do some overlapping things where you've got two people who can kind of do the same thing, more or less. But now you're also looking to maybe have part-time work or contractual work, if you're not trying to hire someone full time. So if you're a business owner out there, there's an opportunity for you to have what do you call it, job share?
That was a job share. And
Yeah.
here's another thing they did. They did what was called a job swap. So if you have an organization and it's on that production line, it usually helps when organizations, most processes are on a production. You start with one person, it goes to the next, and it goes to the next. And what they would do is they would swap. So they would take someone both same salary, same budget, closely related. So I was a contract administrator, and a lot of my work went to the accounting department. Totally different, but they were the next ones on that production line. And what they would do is they would swap us for 6 months. So I got to see what the accounting department did, and they got to see what I do. They got trained in it, and now it made our relationship that much more efficient and effective because now when I'm doing my my work, I know exactly what they need, right? So I'm prepping it for them, and it just made it a whole lot more. It tied everything together.
Yeah, I had a similar situation with a previous employer, but it wasn't for 6 months. It was like for about maybe a couple of weeks or maybe a month.
Hmm.
So quite a bit. So like 15 years ago. But yeah, I do remember, doing that swap and being able to understand what other people within the company were doing. And it was definitely beneficial.
Oh yeah, oh
Yep.
yeah. DEI, well, companies also want to. It enhances your reputation. Customer trust, because that trickles out. People start to pick up on that. Organizations known for inclusive practices enjoy stronger reputations. DEI initiatives signals social responsibility, which can attract customers, partners, and talent, especially among increasingly values-driven audiences.
Let
Ben
me,
& Jerry's is one of them, right?
yeah.
Beyond the ice cream, the company has long been outspoken on social justice issues, including climate change, racial inequity, and the LGBTQ plus community. Patagonia is another one. Beyond its environmental leadership, Patagonia invests in grassroots activism, supports all right, I always get this wrong, the indigenous land rights. Did I say that right? Indigenous. And takes stances on voting access and fair labor practices. And then Salesforce is the tech company that has taken a strong stance on equal pay, LGBTQ plus rights, racial equality, um, and has invested heavily in the philanthropy and workforce diversity initiatives.
Quick question. I don't want to correct you, but did you mean um uh
Indigenous, like
in
that's it. Indigenous.
indigenous?
Indigenous, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I didn't want to correct you on it now.
I told you I needed help with that one.
I mean, there's some words I get stuck on from time to time too now.
I
So
always do. And I hear
indigenous,
that
yeah,
word
yeah.
periodically, not often. And I repeat it and I got it. And then the next time it comes up, I'm like, I forgot how to pronounce it again.
I just wanted to make sure that that's what you were
Say it
saying.
again.
And indigenous,
Indigenous.
and
Okay.
ingenious. I mean, so there's indigenous and then there's ingenious. So I
No,
was
not
making,
ingenious. It was
okay.
ingenious.
I was making sure. All right. Because you was talking about Ben and Jerry's.
We went into vocabulary.
Yeah, no, but you were
One.
talking, you were talking about Ben and Jerry's and you were talking about,
Yeah, their
um,
reputations, how they're
oh yes,
outspoken on
yes,
certain
yes,
things,
yes, yes.
right?
I wanted to say something like that because I had, um, I've got young people in my family. I've got people that are just starting out, excuse me, in their 20s and 30s. They're just getting started in the work world and they've got another 30 years to go. And, from time to time, a lot of young people will change jobs,
Hmm.
depending on the opportunity, the money. They may move from town to town, state to state, whatever the case might be. So what I tell them, if they're looking for a job, because some of my family members will say, Unc, what do you think about this? Or Dad, what do you think about this? And I'll say, you know what? You want to make sure that the cultural fit is good.
Right.
Okay. Do your research on that company. Because a lot of times we're looking at the money and everybody wants to get to the bag. But then you go to that job and you realize you hate this company, you hate the culture, and you can't wait to get out of there.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know? And I had someone in my family, someone that's close to me, I'm not going to say no names, but they ended up taking on a job that they didn't particularly care for, and within 6 months to a year was out, you know, and
Hmm.
what seemed like it would be a great opportunity, you know, and they ended up moving on to even a better opportunity, to be honest with you. But what seemed to most people to be a great opportunity wasn't a good fit.
Right.
And so that's why if you're a person out here looking for a job, don't just focus on the money. Actually look into the company to see what their company practices are, what their hiring practices are like, what the products that they sell, whether they're, if you're into eco-friendly type stuff or you're into, like diversity and that type of thing, whatever the case might be. Do your research. And with AI, it's real easy to research a company right now. You can just put something in there like, you know, tell me about the culture at IBM as it relates to race and gender. You can go put something like, and I didn't mean to say names, but you get
Right.
the. But you could do something like that, and it will give you some feedback as to what the culture is like, whether it's buttoned down or it's really open. With the whole hacky sack playing video games at lunchtime, and they got the snacks on the table and all that. If you're into that type of job, that's good for you. That's kind of like that uh the out west there with like Silicon Valley type
Hmm.
atmosphere, you know. Or if you're into a banking atmosphere, suit and tie, button down, but just understand that when you're going to look for a job or any opportunity, even a business venture, you want to make sure that the culture fits. That's why I talked about earlier, I'm kind of shifting a little bit my business model and working with companies that I choose to work with because and not just I choose them, but they choose me as well. Okay, so it has to go both ways. But the reason why I'm saying this is because you have to make sure that it's a good fit between the two, and sometimes we work with people or we go to work for people that doesn't work out for us. It doesn't match our personality and our belief system or the culture that we come from.
And like you said, the culture is what you got to live with. That money is not going to matter if you're in
Yep.
in the bad culture. It's not if you're not in a culture. When bank you remember Bank Boston?
Yep.
They merged with Fleet,
Yep. I remember when that took
right?
place.
And that
In the 90s, maybe?
Yep. And it was
Yep.
the
Yep.
biggest merger at that
Mhm.
time. It was called the 50-50 merger or whatever, equal merger. But anyway, they sat right side by side downtown Providence, right, in the two Skyline buildings. And when we merged, you talk about two totally different cultures. I mean, we both companies went through culture shock. Because you had one that was real stuffy. I mean, when you walked in the company, you could just tell, the
Mhm.
suits and ties, I mean, just straight and narrow. And then you came over to our side, and we were the ones that were loud, playing, playful. Now we worked hard. we did our job and we did it well, but we also had that other side where, we were more down to earth. 5 o'clock came, everybody was hitting the local happy hours. We were family, and it was just totally different. So that was a big thing, trying to merge those two cultures, after that merger, trying to get those two cultures together.
And I want to go back to something I just said. It's kind of piggybacking on what you're talking about there, but it's from a different perspective. And that is if you're interviewing, right,
Hmm?
for a new position, okay, or you're looking at a prospective client or whatever, don't be afraid to say, what is your company culture like?
Hmm.
When you're sitting there with the HR person or whoever's doing the interview and say, can you tell me a little bit about the culture here? Is it laid back? Is it one where it's kind of wide open? Is it buttoned down? So you can get an understanding, hey, I need to know what kind of a fit this is going to be, you know?
Because
So
remember, that interview goes both ways. It's not
yes,
just, we've always
yes,
been programmed that we
yes.
have to sit quiet and they interview us. No,
No, no, no, no, no.
you have to
And
you interview them too. You have that right.
yeah, and asking questions shows that you can cut out a lot of nonsense, both ways. Uh,
Hmm.
Simply by asking the right questions and getting to know, what they're about, so they can say, hey, based on how they're talking right here, this might not be a good fit for us either. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So it can go both ways. It could go left on you if you ask certain questions, but I'd much rather feel I'd feel more comfortable coming out of the interview knowing that I got all the information I needed so that now I can make an informed decision. Okay.
Hmm.
So if by me asking them questions, if they somehow got offended by that, that tells me something about the culture.
Right. Probably don't need to be there anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, one of the worst things to happen is to go to a job, and I don't know if you ever had that feeling. It ain't even Sunday. It's Saturday night, and you're thinking about having to go to work on a Monday.
Right? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've had
That,
that feeling
that,
to the point where I've had anxiety,
yeah,
like stomach pain.
that's what I'm talking about. That going to work anxiety.
Hmm.
And you're like, how can I find a way to quit this job?
Yep.
So you got to be real careful moving forward, really strategic in terms of the place of employment and how you're going to make a living, because at the end of the day, you're going to spend 8, 10, 12 hours, at this place. Half your life is going to be spent here or traveling to or preparing for.
Yep.
So if you're spending half your day getting prepared for something, going to it, working and giving your best, you want to do that with a company that fits.
That's right. And one last thing that DEI fosters, and that's legal compliance and reduce risk, right? Implementing DEI also helps organizations adhere to legal and regulatory standards around discrimination and equal opportunity. By proactively fostering inclusive environments, they reduce the risk of lawsuits and reputational damage. You have anything else to say before we go to a break, B?
No, I think we've talked about quite a bit. We shared quite a bit with the audience, and I think we have what coming up next. We got some case studies coming up.
Yes.
All
Stay
right.
tuned in with us, viewers. We'll be right back with some case studies surrounding DEI.
At BSM, we transform ideas into results. With high performance websites, strategic digital marketing, and intelligent business solutions, we help brands stand out and scale with confidence. Ready to elevate your brand? Let's make it happen. Visit brandstrategymarketing.com today.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's begin with some case studies on the effectiveness of DEI. Here's an example of DEI's positive effect in the education arena. The Cristo Rey Network. This is a high school serving low-income youth. Here's the overview. The Cristo Rey Network, inspired by Cristo Rey Jesus High School in Chicago, integrates 4 years of college prep education with professional work experience, delivered via its corporate work study program. The key DEI element was it targets underserved, low-income students, cultivating equity in access. Students work in corporate internships, earn tuition support, and build workplace readiness. The outcomes. Students are 3 times more likely to complete a bachelor's by the age 24 compared to low-income peers. The dropout rate plummeted by 75% to 1, and 100% of the graduates were accepted to college. So, why this works? It removes the financial and experimental barriers by blending education with income earned opportunities, empowering students from marginalized communities with real world skills and pathways to higher education.
Can I comment on that right quick?
Absolutely.
Um, this sounds like a great program. Okay.
Hmm.
It sounds like something that this country needs to invest in, you know, actually with all kids, okay, from all backgrounds, especially if you're from, disadvantaged backgrounds. We're talking about rural communities, inner city kids, and really it amazes me that we want to go this route of trying to lock people up, of trying to make sure that we have a military presence um, in our cities and towns. Okay. Whereas if we just invest in the youth, and that's why so many of them get turned off, and that's why so many of them are reading at a sixth grade level. For those of you that don't know, new study just came out. We are no longer reading at an eighth grade level in this country. It's now been downgraded to sixth grade. Okay. And we wonder why we have some of the worst test scores we've had in the past 50 years because we're not investing in our youth. And I want to tell all you baby boomers out there, okay, that are getting rich, pockets are getting fat. These kids are acting the way they're acting because they feel like they don't have any opportunity. Go look at the jobless rate or the unemployment rate, um, and you'll find that right now, I think we added 22,000 jobs in the month of August. 22,000.
Hmm.
Okay. 2 years ago, it was 220,000. All right. And now we're talking about how, uh, we're doing deals with corporations, we're providing people with tax breaks, but we're ignoring inner cities in rural America and we're ignoring our children, you know. And a lot of people who are baby boomers, people who are 62 years and older, those that were born in 1964 or earlier, okay, are getting rich and we're sacrificing our children. They're not able to get a home. They're not able to get a decent education without taking on an enormous amount of debt. The employment opportunities when they do get out of college, not providing livable wages. I mean, so we really have to take a look at, how uh, we're positioning our youth moving forward. So a program like this, I applaud them. I think it's great. I worked in a similar program that did similar things called Rhode Island Educational Talent Search. And I can tell you right now that I was able to put 500 kids over a 10-year period into colleges and universities throughout the United States. And I'm talking anywhere from CCRI to Harvard University.
We
Okay.
become a product of our environment.
Until we get to the point where we invest in our children, okay, we are going to continue to see this downward spiral.
And that includes the parents as well, because the schools, like you said, the new study came out when we're reading on a sixth grade level. How are we even graduating high school on a reading on a sixth grade level? Like, how are they even getting to college? You know what I mean?
It, it, it,
It's
it used to be called social promotion.
mhm.
Remember when a kid wasn't really able to keep up, wasn't really reading at grade level, but they promoted them anyway.
Anyway,
And
right.
also, what they do is they adjust the curriculum, they dumb it down, okay, so that now um, it fits the masses.
Yeah,
You know? And the average kid that has a sixth grade education can actually get a high school diploma.
yeah,
And by the time they get out of high school, they're not able to read and write. They're not able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. They're not able to write a paper or somehow put a resume. They're not able to communicate in an interview. They have subpar social skills. I mean, all this comes into play. Whereas, like I said, if we invested our time and money into our youth and made it so that now we're not just investing, because it's not enough for you to just have an education. What kids are starting to see, like I mentioned a minute ago, is what do I do with that education now? Okay.
Hmm.
Now that I have this piece of paper, now that I went to college, where's my job?
Right. And
And
everybody promised me that dream that if I finish college, I'm going to get a good paying
yeah,
job.
yes, that's why programs like this are very difficult to sell to our youth, because it's like I'm putting all this work in, without the outcome.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we all want to be compensated. We all want to be able to, be able to stand on our own, be independent, and to be able to provide for ourselves. And a lot of these young kids, by the time they're 21 years old, even though they finished college and did everything that everyone said they were supposed to do, there's nothing at the end of the road or the end of the rainbow.
Right.
They're being shut out. And this is why you're seeing the situation that you see in New York, where you have a so-called socialist, okay, what people are labeling as a socialist is really making some noise. And he's scaring the hell out of this country. I'm gonna tell you right now.
What do
Because
you mean? Like, say that again. Say that about the socialist? Now,
I think his name is Mamdani.
okay.
He's running for New York City mayor.
Okay. Okay.
He is the Democratic candidate.
Right.
And he's talking about doing all these things that are going to benefit the youth, and it's going to benefit people who are disenfranchised or those that have been left behind. And so now there's an excellent possibility he's going to be the next mayor of New York City. And what people are afraid of, okay, is this trickling down and
Mm.
now having an impact throughout the country, where other cities, other states, and even our president may take on this same viewpoint,
Mm.
ideology.
Oh, we got to follow him.
Oh, absolutely. He's on the news every single day.
Say
Just
his name. Say his name again, Brian, for the viewers.
I think it's Mandami.
Mandami.
Yeah, I want to make sure. I think he's an Indian guy, if I'm not mistaken. It's only like he's less than 35 years. He's not even 35.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, he's on point. Smart as a whip, and he's scaring the hell out of these Republicans.
Hmm.
100, because they talk about him every day. He's the only person that they talk about, and I'm gonna tell you right now, him and Barack Obama have the two most important voices in the Democratic Party right now.
Mm.
So if you get a chance, look them up.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Absolutely. We're going to pause for a quick break. When we return, we will wrap it up with one last case study and a few words of advice. Viewers, fed up with the constant stream of problems on social media without any real solutions? Check out the Solutions Not Just Problems podcast. They cover everything from relationships to current events, trending topics, business, professional development, and much more. They talk about us. Tune into the SNJP podcast Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. with co-hosts Vanessa K and B Money on YouTube. If you have something you want to talk about, they want to hear from you. So connect with Vanessa K or B Money today. And if you enjoy the show, be sure to subscribe and share. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to go on and talk about our last case study of the day, and this affects the workplace. Microsoft's neurodiversity and accessibility programs. Here's the overview. Microsoft has embedded inclusion deep into its hiring and workplace design, especially for neurodiverse individuals and people with disabilities. The key DEI elements is autism hiring program. With other tailored recruitment practices, reduce bias and adapt onboarding for neurodiverse candidates. One of the things is it has a strong emphasis on accessibility by designing products and workplace environments. And supplier diversity program. This supplier diversity program promotes equity in procurement by engaging minority-owned businesses. The outcomes of this program included improved retention and job satisfaction among neurodiverse employees and greater innovation owing to diverse perspectives. It strengthened business ecosystems and inclusion via diverse suppliers. Why it works? With structural changes in hiring, product design, and procurement, Microsoft weaved inclusion into the very fabric of its operations, benefiting both people and performance. Now, be real, we were talking earlier, and this may have changed. You want to shed some light on that, or there may be a change coming?
Yeah, as you know, a lot of the DEI programs that may be tied into the federal government, are in jeopardy of being cut. As we speak right now, today, President Trump is over in the UK, in England, and he has some of his buddies from some of the major companies. I know Apple is one. I believe Meta is one, and I'm almost sure that Microsoft is one. And he's trying to merge or create some kind of a deal with the United States, the tech companies, and the UK. Now, what's happening is that a lot of these programs are going to be in jeopardy because if they're tied to federal funding and it has any type of DEI component to it, there's a good possibility it may get defunded. So even though a program like this, that sounds great, it's identifying, a large group of people in this country, and I don't have the numbers as to the number of people that suffer from autism, or I'm sorry, I don't mean to use the word suffer, but to those that are living with autism, okay, um, they may be in jeopardy, okay, as well, and this is where, I look at the country and I'm like, where's the empathy?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the caring, the love that so many of us say we have, and we do when it pertains to us and our family and our group. But what happens when you're not part of that group? Do you have that same level of empathy, that same level of caring? We need to get back to that. And when I say we, I mean the people that we deal with, the people that are in our inner circle, the people that are in our community. We need to really let people know, it's important that we care for other people beside ourselves, and that we look out for people who maybe have less than us. So if you're a person who's fortunate enough to be doing well, we need to get back to where it's not just about us and feeding our family, but let's help to feed someone else's family as well. I want to get back to where we have a sense of community, like we did in the 80s and 90s. Even though we had some challenges and problems that we were dealing with, there was still a sense of community, and I just feel like we need to get back to that. I don't want to go down that road because I can talk about that all day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really important that we understand how a lot of this is being impacted by today's administration. Okay, having this information and telling the truth, and there may be some people that disagree. Okay, but the facts are the facts. And if you want to look this stuff up and go ahead and use AI, Chat GPT, or whatever you want, just ask a question. Is Microsoft's neurodiversity and accessibility program in jeopardy? During the Trump administration, something to that effect. Okay, and you'll get the answer. So you don't have to take my word for it. Look it up yourself.
Mm. And challenge yourself. Don't just look it up. Challenge yourself. Go and do something for somebody who doesn't look like you,
Wow.
or just serve somebody who doesn't look like you or act like you, or
Wow.
into your community.
Really? That's a new idea.
Mm-hmm. Because it
Wow.
starts with we can all do something to make the change. It has to start with each individual, each
Hmm.
one of us separately.
And do me a favor. Don't
Mm-hmm.
treat it like they're charity cases. You know what I mean? Like I mean, I'm gonna keep it all because the name is right in that corner right there, right?
Uh-huh. Be
Oh,
real.
yeah.
We
Listen,
want to hear it.
we,
Be
we got
real.
we got enough backpack days and turkey giveaways and people playing Santa and all this stuff. You know what I mean? We need some real tangible, excuse me, substantial, effective programs that are going to help to change people's lives.
Mhm.
Okay. And if we're not going to do that, please stop with like I said, the backpack days. We got enough of that stuff.
Right.
We're giving away school supplies to kids. excuse me, they probably got a whole desk full of them and don't even bring the damn things to school.
Mhm.
Okay. We
Mhm.
got enough turkey out there. You're coming with a 20-pound turkey to feed a family of 10. Okay. And they still got the turkey from last Thanksgiving. All right. So please, let's get to the point where we really do some substantial things for our community, like what you're talking about right here. So if a company like Microsoft is not taking on that program, for all of you that have money out there, that have resources, that have the ability to start something like this, we need to do this in the private sector. Okay, we can't keep depending on the government or some of these large corporations to get it done. We have people within our community. If we put our resources together, we can solve a lot of these problems ourselves. Thus, what we call this program solutions, not just problems.
Absolutely. So we're going to end with some food for thought. Diversity is being invited to the table. Inclusion is having a voice. And equity is making sure that voice is heard and valued. As leaders, business owners, and members of any organization, we must continually ask ourselves if we ourselves, our practices, our culture, do we check all the boxes? This isn't lip service. Lip service is phony and easily read, just like Be Real just said. We can see through the backpack gifts and all of that. It diminishes your credibility. This is Vanessa K and Be Real signing off. Remember to keep growing, stay motivated, and thanks for tuning in.
Peace.